All right, welcome back. So if you guys watched the last video, we got this matrix project set up. We did the unplug. So we took that red pill, and then now we're gonna go ahead and start getting our environment set up. We're gonna start taking advantage of the matrix. And we're gonna use GitOps, a config repo. We're gonna get Terraform. We're gonna use that to deploy some virtual machines. We're gonna use Ansible to configure them. And then we're gonna use Portainer to sync to our configuration repo and deploy some containers for us. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. We're gonna get a lot of cool stuff going. And you're gonna have some nice templates too on just, how you can just do this on your own, replicate it in different environments. This is kind of the core of our lab. So whether this is like for a business, for your home lab, for fun, in the cloud, whatever you're doing, these are kind of some services that we're going to use that kind of enable us to easily deploy other things. Like we need a domain name server, we need a load balancer, we need like a management service. So right now we're going to deploy a container manager. We're going to deploy a nice little dashboard to point to our services. We're not going to set up DNS and domain names and routing yet, and the load balancer. That'll come in the next video. But let's get started. All right, so this is the project. So this is a nice little diagram that I made. And I'm just going to kind of walk us through what's going to happen first. So first we're going to go into GitLab. I'm going to show you guys my project. You can clone it. I'm going to show you how my project structure is. So you can kind of copy that in your own GitLab group. And then you're going to clone this down, and we're going to check out this config repo file. We're going to check out this Terraform code. I'm going to show you how we can use GitLab as a backend. So no matter where you're running your commands, whether it's on your machine, on a runner, someone else's, you can use a centralized state. So that way you can do it the right way. You don't want to be using a local state file. So we're going to go over all that. We're going to deploy a Proxmox virtual machine, use Ansible to configure it. It's an Ubuntu VM. So we're going to configure it with Ansible, use Ansible to deploy Portainer. And then once that is done, we're going to start using Portainer. It's going to sync to our config repo in GitLab. And then we're going to use it to deploy a dashboard. And then these are just kind of some future services that we're going to use. And so this is kind of the whole idea. I want to kind of show how it works. Like this is going to be our matrix VLAN that we made in the last video. And we're going to be able to use all of these services to support our other services. So like I can deploy a Portainer agent on a service over here, and I can use my Portainer instance to manage, these Docker containers over here on this server, in this other environment. Also, we can use this load balancer. So I can use it to go at any of my services, whether I'm in my network, from this network, outside of my network through maybe a VPN, or if you port forward, which we will set up a VPN soon. So that's kind of the whole idea. I can use this load balancer. This service can also use this load balancer to access some services. Like we'll set up a vault, and these are going to want to use vault in the pipeline to get secrets. So that's kind of the whole idea. This is like our core infrastructure. We're just kind of bootstrapping our environment. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, so I want to talk about the GitLab part and what we're going to be doing here. So we're going to be using GitLab as our Terraform backend, which I think is so nice because I think that's one of the hardest parts to figure out is your Terraform state and how you're going to manage that. Because like if you deploy an S3 bucket, do you have to go manually deploy that? Or like, where are you going to put that Terraform state file if you use Terraform to deploy your state? So it's like the chicken or the egg, like what comes first? So I think GitLab makes it really easy. And it can exist also with your config repo. Your Terraform state's in the same place. So I really like that. I know Terraform Enterprise is also free. You can have like a free tier account, which I haven't really played around with. Maybe we'll do that in a future video. Leave a comment if you'd like to see that. But yeah, we're going to be putting this config repo in here, and we're going to be storing the configuration for our whole environment here. So it's going to be a source of truth for this VLAN of what's deployed, what resources are active, and we can easily modify this config repo to deploy and tear down resources. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. So let's go to our repo here. And I want to show you just the project structure. So if you go to my public group here on my Spackle group, you can check out this config. And it's kind of like this. So all my config repo files are going to go in here. So anything that has to do with configuration. If I have a prod one, I'll put it in there. And I might also make these into like subgroups. It's up to you and how you want to do it. It could just be one file for each one. These, I have multiple for this one, kind of because this is like a bootstrap project. So it's not going to kind of follow the same as prod. Like when I make a prod environment, I'm gonna have just a prod, repo, and that's gonna be like a mono repo for all of my production deployments, and just kind of a source of truth for that. So that's kind of how it's set up. So let's get started. Let's go ahead and clone this project, and let's go and do VS Code so we can get started looking at that. So let's go ahead and get over there. All right, so let's get started with this Terraform. So the first thing we need to do is log in and log into our remote backend and do a Terraform init. So we're going to use the script that I made. And all you need to do is just set your GitLab username and token as an environment variable. And you can do that like this. So export GitLab username and then yours. And then same thing with your token. And then what we need to do, cd into that Terraform folder, so we're in there, and then we're going to reference that scripts folder and the init script. Boom, we're logged in. So now before we can actually do anything with Proxmox, we need to set our variables. So go ahead and set this to your IP address, and then go ahead and create your token, which you easily do here in data center, permissions, API tokens. We did it in the last video. So you just hit add, make sure you uncheck privilege separation, and then copy those credentials over. And then now just set your username and password you want on the server and add your public key. So to do that, you can do cat, reference the home folder .ssh, and then I use the 25519. So if yours is RSA, you do ID _ RSA, and then make sure you do the .pub, and then copy this whole thing and then put it right here. So now you have your SSH key. So once we have those variables set, we can say Terraform plan. I'm gonna make this big. So Terraform plan, boom, plan file. We successfully authenticated with Proxmox. Did a successful plan. So let's go ahead and apply. I'm gonna say -auto approve, and then boom, 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 boom. That should be creating, and then this is gonna take 2 minutes. So while this is creating, I'm gonna go over what we did. So this is the containers file, and I set the IP address that I wanted to have right here, and then I referenced the matrix container template that we made, or the matrix server. That's what this module does. So you have to have a template named matrix server if you're using this module that I made. And then we give it an ID, a name, set that username and password, add our public key. I gave it 12 gigs of RAM, 4 cores, 100 gig hard drive. The storage is like this local LVM right here. I specified that network bridge that we made when we set up our pfSense, and then I referenced that IP address, the VLAN that it's on, the name server, gateway, CIDR block. This is if you want a second VM, but pretty simple. I mean, just kind of some common things we would use to set up our server. You can actually change these. I do want to let you know though, once you deploy these, be very careful, because if you make changes, you can make changes and it can actually take down your VM and redeploy a new one without persisting your data. So be careful. You kind of want to deploy these once. So yeah, you really shouldn't be messing with these a lot. You are safe to add more memory and take memory away. Like with the, well, I don't know about taking memory away, but you can add more memory in cores, and that shouldn't do a recreate. I think you can add disk size, but be really careful, like changing the ID, the name, that'll completely wipe it out. So yeah, just be careful. You should be able to change the IP address. I don't think that should mess with it, but like I said, just be careful. This should be done any second now. Boom, done. All right, so now let's go ahead and configure it, but let's do a quick ping. 65, and it's alive and running. Let's SSH to it. Oh, I already made this one before, so let me remove my .ssh known hosts folder. Then now I should just say yes. Boom, and I'm connected. So we're in. We see that 100 gigabyte. There's our IP address. Sweet, we are good to go. So let's exit, and then yeah, let's move on to the Ansible. All right, so we were in this Terraform folder, right? So let's get out of that into Ansible. And let's just make sure we add that IP address for our server right here. And then we're gonna go to our vault file, add that server username. Don't worry about this yet. And then let's look at this Ubuntu playbook. Pretty much all it's gonna do is just update the app package manager, and then make sure Docker's installed, and then add this guest agent. I don't know how you say that. Quemu, emu, whatever. And then it's going to use this vault file, which is where we get this server user from. Bam. And then, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So really easy. If you need to install, you can just say sudo apt-get install Ansible, and then you can add a -y, and it'll auto do it. And then we're gonna say Ansible. Here, let me clear this. Let's make this big. So now we're gonna run the playbook. So Ansible -playbook -i, we're gonna specify our host file. So host dot, I don't know why it has that Docker one, YAML. And then now our playbook. So playbooks, Ubuntu. And these should all already be done, so it shouldn't really have anything to do. Boom, okay, so good to go. It ran that, and now we are all set. So let's go ahead and get Portainer ready. All right, so go to portainer.io, hit start for free, and fill this out. Get a free business license, because it's really dumb not to. You're missing out on a lot of really nice free features like automatic backups. You can set up mini IO, automatically back up to it, or just a real S3 bucket. The GitOps is really nice. They add a lot of extra support like saving credentials. So just fill this all out. They'll send you an email, and then you're gonna get your business key. And then when you do get that, get right back here to our vault, put it in here. So there's the business key for this demo account that I made. This isn't mine, so don't even worry, this key won't work. I'm probably gonna block it out anyway. But yeah, you just put your key in right here. And then now, let's check out this in containers, check out this Portainer playbook. So I'm gonna run through it really fast. So this is gonna reference that vault file, so we can use that business secret, right? And then it's gonna go to that containers machine. So if we look at this host file, containers, we're referencing that. And then we're going to create a Portainer data volume to persist the data. We're gonna create a Docker network to put these all on. This will come into play later, but we're gonna do it right now first. And then we're gonna use the Enterprise Edition. Don't use the Community Edition. Use the Enterprise Edition, get a license for it. Open up these ports that Portainer needs, put it on that proxy network, bind it to the Docker socket so it can actually modify our Docker daemon and run containers. We're gonna persist the data, and this is how we're gonna easily apply our license key, so it'll just do it automatically, you don't have to do it in the UI. And then just ignore these labels right now. When we set up our reverse proxy, this will come into play. But for right now, don't worry about it. So yeah, simple as that. Let's go ahead and deploy Portainer now. So we're gonna kind of do the same thing, but instead of that playbook, we're gonna get out of Ansible into containers, Portainer, and then reference the bootstrap, hit enter. And this is gonna, so now the VM's, it's pulling Portainer. Boom, deployed. So, let's see if it works. So let's go here. We're gonna go to HTTPS. Make sure you do that or it won't work. Yep, 9443. This is a good sign. There we go, we have an admin account. You can change that to like your name. Put in a nice little password there. I really recommend using a password manager. You could also restore from a backup if you had one, but I don't. Not, at least not for this one. And there we go, you can click get started. We have our local environment, but what I want you to do is go down to registries, and then you're gonna wanna add a registry. You're gonna add this GitLab one, and then let's go here. Am I still in my robot account? Okay, perfect. So this is also how you make a token. So we're gonna go here, preferences, access tokens, and then we're gonna create a Sprackle demo Portainer regcrack. Name it whatever you want, and then you can just give it read API. Copy that token, get it back over here, paste that. So this should work. Now all my projects are here, and like for this one, I'm just gonna get all the, you can specify which ones you want. You could just do all, but for this one I'm just gonna do only the public ones. Boom, create registries. So now we have this set up. And then if I go home, so now we should be able to authenticate with those. So now let's go ahead and start up our first stack. So let's move on to that. All right, so this is how we're gonna do the stacks. So this is the coolest part about Portainer, in my opinion. So click on your, so if you're in home, click on your local environment, click stacks, add a stack, and then we're gonna call this Heimdall, and click repository. Enable authentication, and then so for this, I'm gonna use that same token, and I'm gonna call this Portainer deployer. So now I can actually save this credential and reuse it. So nice. If you use the community edition, you have to re-enter this every single time with a new token or the same token, and you have to redo it. This is so much nicer. So next part, let's go get that public repo URL. So we're here, copy that. Now watch, so also check for this part for the reference. It's just whatever your main branch is, or whatever branch you want it to use to deploy from. You can change it if you want. You would just change this one. And then this is the coolest part also about the Enterprise Edition. It knows your folder structure, so you don't have to try to like get it right, and if you misspell it, I can just select the one that I want. So we're gonna select that Heimdall container, and then automatic updates. So every 5 minutes, this is going to check for changes to that file. And you can adjust that to whatever you want. You could also set environment variables on the container that are extra, which we're gonna do in a next video. But go ahead and hit deploy. And then wait, and definitely don't navigate away from the page, otherwise it'll cancel out what you're doing and you have to redo all this stuff. So wait for it, there we go. And Heimdall is deployed. So let's go look at this container really fast. And it's a very simple one. I have port 10443 open. And like I said, just ignore these labels. They'll come into play in a future video. And with this one, like we just made we attached to that proxy network that we made. That's gonna be very important in the future. And we're gonna persist the data right here. So let's go check out this volume. So I'm gonna go to HTTPS 10.10.4.65. And there we go. So now we have a nice little dashboard that we can use, so we don't have to remember all of our services. So let's go ahead and add Portainer. There she is. And do I have it on here? Yeah, 65. So there's the address we're gonna go in at. I had really bad luck using this. It like actually rate limited me with Portainer and locked me out. I don't know if that's fixed in the newest update. Maybe someone can mention in the comments. But I would just be weary of using this. So use it at your own risk. But now let's watch. Boom, back at my Portainer. So really cool. And as you saw, like I used like a Git repo, so I could actually go change this version, which you shouldn't use the latest version, but it's just like a simple dashboard, so I didn't really care for this one. But yeah, like as you can see, I can just now go modify this, and then Portainer will pick up on those changes and update this container for me. So super cool. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to show you guys more. We're gonna continue to set up more, so we're gonna get everything that you guys need. I want to get you guys like a nice full environment with the good examples on how to do things the right way. You could like do this in Kubernetes, but I wanted to do a really simple version first, where we kind of deploy more for a home lab environment. Like maybe you have a Raspberry Pi only, or a simple little server. Like you don't have to have this Proxmox step. You can definitely just deploy straight to a VM or a server. If you did that, you would just put the IP address of your Raspberry Pi in that host file. So it's pretty fun. Hopefully you guys don't have a hard time setting this up. It should be pretty easy and straightforward. I'd say get familiar with Portainer. It's a really great tool, and get the damn business edition. Don't use the community edition. You are just wasting your time with a lot of like tedious stuff you have to do. You're gonna save so much more time using the business edition, and it's free. You have 5 nodes free. Like, why not? Like, it's a no-brainer. Just do it. But yeah, thanks everyone. Go ahead, like, subscribe, put in the comments, what services do you guys want to see? I'd love to deploy some more containers, figure some more things out. I have a command line application in Go that I really have a good idea for that I'm working on. Yeah, let me know what you guys want to see. I'm gonna also have a guide for this as well, so you can kind of go through like a blog kind of post to try to set it up. So more to come. Stick around, and yeah, let's get our little matrix set up. Thanks everyone.